a podcast by Neutral Voices Media Group. In the Know.
Welcome, good evening. I'm Miss Jill, and this is In the Know. To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. Life is all about planting seeds, whether we are planting seeds in our village, in our garden, in our families, in our future, planting, watering, cultivating, taking care of things. It's all about planting seeds. Tonight, we have a couple of wonderful ladies who are literally planting seeds in our community, specifically in the villages of Hannah in that community. So I would like to welcome Denise, and I would like to welcome Renee. Welcome, ladies. Welcome. How are you?
Good evening.
So before we get into things, I would like to briefly just have each of you tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll start with you, Denise.
My name's Denise Jackson. I grew up about a half an hour outside of Philadelphia. And then when I was married, we lived in Delaware, and my husband got a job at Miles Lab in Elkhart, Indiana. And then after we retired in 2013, we came to Fort Wayne because my daughter Dina lives here.
And here you are. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Miss Renee, how are you?
I'm good.
Great. Tell us a little bit about Renee.
Well, I was born and raised here in good old Fort Wayne. My family, they're from the South, Alabama to be exact.
Okay.
But
Mine too.
You're Alabama, yeah. So I'm just a person that likes to try to do everything. Just put it like that.
Gotcha. Welcome, Miss V.
Oh, well, hello,
welcome.
buddy.
So let's go ahead and get started. So to give a little background first, I ran across this garden a couple of months ago, about 60 days ago to be exact. I took on a new property, and there was this fence, and it was just kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I thought, what's behind the fence? So, of course, I'm nosy. So I went over, and the fence was locked. So I was even more intrigued by what was in here. And, of course, I can't see over the fence because I'm a little person. So, long story short, I asked one of the gentlemen at the property, hey, what's back there? And he said, that is a garden. I said, a garden just out here? And so that kind of brings us to today, because the women behind that garden, who have created the garden, cultivated, watered, planted seeds, are here with us to talk not just about the garden itself. We know that when we see the fruits of our labor, or vegetables of our labor in this case, and I wish that I had pictures to show of this garden, because it is massive and it is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But there's more to it than just the way the garden looks. So we're going to talk a little bit about why the garden is important, why it's important to this particular community, how both Denise and Renee got involved, and a little bit about their own passion. So before we get started, J29 Hope Garden is the name of the garden, correct?
That's correct.
Can someone let us know where that name came from? Let's start there.
It's from Jeremiah 29, verse 11. And I don't have my Bible with you to quote it correctly.
That's fine, but I absolutely love that. Who came up with that?
Well, there was a group of people that back in 2013, after I retired and moved to Fort Wayne. My daughter and son-in-law asked me to join this group. That it was a ministry group, and we ministered to the women and the children of villages of Hannah. And so we met every Tuesday night, and we could have anywhere from 20 to 40 children there each night. So we had crafts and Bible story, and just sat around and talked with them and had a good time.
Were these the children from the property itself?
Yes, all of them were.
Okay, wonderful. So that's kind of how you got involved. You were there prior to Miss Renee coming on board.
I started
in the physical
back
realm.
in 2013. Yes, with that.
Gotcha. So Renee, how did you come on board?
It just happened. I had been inquiring about a garden.
Okay. Okay.
And at the time, they said they weren't going to do anything. I didn't know they already had it in the works.
Okay.
And so I started doing a garden in my house. And one day I went out and they had a garden out there. And I just was like, okay, I would like to volunteer to work at water. And this is where I'm at.
Yes. Yes.
Years later.
Yes.
Wait now.
3
Because
years later.
I need to understand this and make sure we're on the same page. You wanted a garden, so you started one of your own at your address.
Inside my apartment.
In the
I
house.
thought you said inside, so I wanted to know. Okay, because because you got to talk about that a little bit, because I think that people are doing that a lot more than we know.
I started off actually with an arrow garden.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had got a little fish tank and started growing stuff in the fish tank. And
Okay, I know you think everybody know what an arrow garden is. I do not.
Right,
So,
right.
arrow garden is it's a little garden. It comes with little pots and it's pre-seeded.
Okay.
And all you do is put in there, and you put the nutrition in there. It has a timer where it lights up. And it has a thing where it does the air filtration for the water. And it just grows. All you have to do is change the water every now and then.
that might be something I can handle. But now that's strictly for inside.
Yes.
Okay, but
Set it on your counter, your table,
Okay.
windowsill.
Okay, so you had that, and fast forward, you walked out.
They were doing,
Were you like Jill? Like you said, I just need to know what's behind the fence, or you can see the garden.
No,
You can see
I
it.
was there when they was building it, but I didn't know what it was.
Okay, and so you said I got to be a part of this.
And they did a what was it?
It was a dedication ceremony,
Yes, and I just happened to show up.
and we were asking for volunteers that day.
And I was like, I
She
volunteer.
volunteered.
Oh wow,
Gotcha.
that is beautiful.
And
And you've been working with.
Yes, I got rid of my home garden.
Yeah, transferred
My
it.
goodness.
Transferred it. I will say, so after I saw the fence and inquired about the garden, I didn't actually get to see the garden until it was probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So Renee was going in there because what she does is she'll go in, and if things are ready, sometimes she will pick those things, and sometimes we'll come into the office and bring, a few cucumbers, whatever. So one day I said, oh, if you're going to the garden, I want to see. So we walked in there, and there were a couple other women that were with us. So, and when I say, I think in a community garden, it's the reason I say it's so much more than a garden, because not only is it a social hub per se, because people are gathering at a place that's not your job, it's not school, it's not someplace we have to be, it's someplace that we want to be. And also using it as, going back to the children, as an educational space. So here we are in the garden that I just walked into. They had music playing. It was an awesome vibe. It was a beautiful day, green everywhere. I mean, I was like a kid in a candy store asking, Miss Renee, what's this? What's this? There were herbs, there were so many things. And there were other women in the garden that had questions. So I watched her, and she didn't know that I was, doing a whole study, apparently. But I watched her as she educated these women about what this is, and when's it ready, and how it's ready. So those are things that I noticed right away. It's not only just a haven for, fresh produce and healthy food, but it's so much more than that. And that's kind of what I want to dig into this evening. So that was my first time seeing the garden, and I watched Renee walk to the garden, and I watched people follow her, and so excited about when's the garden going to be open? When can we get back into the garden? Or the children, when can we, it's just so cool to them, because it's something that's right here in the city, right at where they live. And if it weren't right there, would they ever see anything, so cool and so awesome just right here in the city?
And you say in the city. So exactly, is it on the south side?
Yes.
So this is probably even more remarkable.
Yes.
Because it's on the
not
south
on the
side.
south side.
Well, it is the zip code for the one of the highest poverty areas, if that's what you're asking.
That's what I'm
Yes.
asking. Because when you say, it's so phenomenal, and would they ever see anything like this?
Yes. Correct.
So I want to make sure we're being transparent,
Yes.
and I want to make sure I'm following. When you say that, you mean the children?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
correct. Because, a garden, unless you really have your own home, I mean, I don't know. I've ran a couple of communities and I've never seen where they have a garden.
A real garden.
A garden like this. Yeah, and we call it the community garden because there's so much there. It's way more than just enough for, one person or a family. So I want to talk about what happens once the cucumbers are ready or once something is ready. What happens from there?
I prefer to allow the community to come in and pick it. I express it to Denise a lot. I prefer for the community to come in and pick it themselves.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they're mingling with it. I get a kick out of just talking to them myself.
Absolutely.
That's all I do. I love talking to the plants. But but sometimes it's hard to get people to come in there because they're the finicky bugs and all type of
Yeah.
stuff. But,
Yeah.
Get over
Yeah.
it.
I can see that.
It's funny that Renee said that because Renee has trouble spreading the weeds apart or the plants apart to put her hand in to get a big tomato out, and
It's the bug.
Okay.
they just laughed about that.
Right. And she said, just get over it, right? So
That's what I tell her.
Let's talk about these bugs.
It's different. I have allergies from
Sure.
a lot of bugs.
Okay. Me too.
And
I'm allergic to spiders and worms.
Oh, but you're in a garden.
Yeah, roaches. I'm allergic to maple trees, oak trees. I'm allergic to a lot of things. So when I go to the garden, it's
You have to
special
be
to me,
careful.
but it triggers my allergies. But I keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can give
I
you a
get
little
over it.
background.
We
Yeah.
forgive you.
Yeah, please.
The garden was first started after J29 back in 2013. I was asked to put it in, except that the management company at that time was not given permission for it.
Okay.
So the gal Chrissy, that used to work for them was very diligent and kept asking and asking and asking. And then in 2020, I get an excited call from Chrissy. And that, Denise, we're putting a garden in. You're putting the garden in. And I'm like, okay, this is how many years later? And I'm now 70 years old. So anyway, she contacted the chapel, which is on the southwest side of town, I
Yes.
believe. And because of COVID, a lot of things were shut down and they had extra money. So they came out and bought all the supplies for the fence because I said I would not put a garden in unless there was a fence up. And so they sent out a crew of guys, bought all the supplies, and they asked me what size I wanted, and I told them it's 48 foot by 40, so it's a large garden. And then after that, a friend of mine, because I'm a master gardener through the Purdue Extension
Right.
Office, and so my job as a master gardener, I have to keep my accreditation, I have to take so many
Continuing hours.
continuing education hours and plus volunteer
Gotcha.
hours, and I'm supposed to help instruct the
Okay.
community
Okay.
on plants.
She's done a lot.
That's
She's taught me a lot
beautiful.
about the
Yeah.
garden.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Renee's really learned.
We hear your name a lot. I see Renee more because of the hours that I am there, but I hear your name a lot. I think sometimes too, even when we are making an impact on people, they don't always tell us directly, but we hear through the grapevine. So I just, before we go any further, want both of you to know that we do hear your name often at the property. You are making an impact when you're coming in and being selfless and doing this for the needs or where you see a need. But there was definitely a need. And, we were talking a little bit earlier, I think sometimes when we're living out our purpose, it comes from things that have happened to us sometimes in our lives. Those things can be wonderful things, and those things can be traumatic. So, Renee, you and I talked earlier, and I kind of just was asking her, she seems very selfless. It doesn't matter if it's 100 degrees outside or what it is. She's out there doing what she feels needs to be done for no other reason than just the goodness of her selfless heart. But that doesn't come without a lot of pain that was experienced in her life And Renee did say that, we could talk about this. So I want to talk a little bit about why the garden is so important to you, as far as you had said, I don't want others to deal with some of the things that I had to deal with. Let's talk a little bit about where that comes from.
Growing up, I ended up in a foster home at a young age. It was in the 80s, and I was in a Caucasian family, and they had a daughter of my age at that time. I think I was about 6, around there somewhere. And they would not let me play with their daughter. We very much wanted to play with each other, but they wouldn't let me play with her. And we couldn't eat at their table with them. We had to eat the leftovers that they left, and we couldn't eat it at their table. We had to go outside to the porch, and we had to sleep in the attic. It was me and 2 other dark-skinned boys. So we slept in the attic, and I was like, I would never treat anyone like that.
Yes, yes. And, that goes back to, you wanted to make sure that if somebody was hungry, they got what they needed. Yes. And, so even out of pain or trauma or things like that, Renee was still, strong enough to pull herself out of that and make sure that if she had anything to do with it, that other children were not going to go through that.
Yes, plus it's nutritious.
And it's nutritious. It's nutritious. So thank you, for sharing that, for sharing your story. Let's talk a little bit about what's in the garden. I know that there's a lot more than meets the eye. So, like I said, I was asking questions. There were things on the wall I thought were herbs. You said, no, those are strawberries.
There was one herb on the wall.
See? Okay, I was close. So let's talk a little bit about if we were to walk through the garden right now, what would we see?
She know the beds by heart, but
well, I asked the residents what they would prefer for us to grow, first of all. So there are collards, greens, okra, cucumbers, lots of tomatoes because they like green tomatoes, which you're going to try soon. Let's see, onions, jalapeno, habanero,
bunch of beans,
bell peppers. We have bush green beans and also pole beans because I'm trying to teach them how to also grow vertically.
Okay.
What else we have? Did I miss something?
We had 2 types of...
we have carrots, but we're not sure about the carrots.
Right, I've heard about the carrots,
And we had strawberries, but they didn't do too good this year.
There are years that sometimes you have a little trouble with some plants.
Then we have like herbs with the herbs. We have sage, several different types of thyme.
Basil.
Oregano. Someone destroyed our dill.
That was Chad.
Oh my goodness! I was going to say with a fence.
That was my son. That was my
inside job.
She's calling out her son right here.
My son-in-law was trying to help us weed, and he pulled a dill out.
Yeah.
So,
but it's okay.
Well,
you forgave them.
Yes, I forgave them because remember they're aggressive. I can take a dill from my house and put it in the ground; it'll grow.
Okay, you said a dill as in a dill pickle?
You have you ever bought herbs? Dills.
It's real tall.
Yeah,
okay.
So,
well, no, honey.
We need to come to the. We need to come.
Obviously, it looks like a weed.
We need a tour.
I'm saying you just gonna stick a dill pickle in the ground, and it's honey. Please help us out here. Okay. Now I just have to tell you, I haven't been in the garden.
This is why there are master gardeners, and there are
there's the people that stay away from the garden, and you get it when it hit the plate.
You have to come to the garden when I'm there.
That's what I'm getting ready to say right now. Okay, so now listen here. Okay, all this fun and stuff. The garden is a lot of work.
Yes, it is. And it's hot.
It is hot, exactly. But so with that, I'm saying, so you have all of these things, and so all of these things need different stuff at different times to grow, or you can do the same thing. You're watering everything at one time. You're putting this on this and not on that, or what?
We don't use pesticides. We use no pesticides.
No pesticides.
All organic.
So they all need the same water, the herbs,
no,
the vegetables.
There's some plants, like tomatoes, they like it hot and dry, so they don't have to be watered as much as some other plants. So there is some difference there. There's some plants that don't play as well together, so you can't put them in the same beds, that kind of thing. There's also other plants that are called companion plants that you put in, let's say like Alyssium or nasturtiums or marigolds that help to keep certain bugs away.
Okay, that's good. That was one of my questions. What things would you plant to help keep?
Yeah, you have to research the particular plant. Like, let's see, we had sunflowers one year, but there's a toxin that's in those that can stunt the growth of certain plants.
Interesting. Interesting.
So if you were going to, and I'm just talking about something I like to eat.
Pickle garden.
I heard you talk about collards.
Yes.
Collard greens.
Okay, so if I wanted to plant collards, what would you suggest or recommend that I plant it next to it or around it to maybe keep the
We usually
worms
put 'em in a
out?
bed
Is
by
there
themselves.
anything?
They love a lot of heat too, but we used to keep it in the bed by itself. We might put a few herbs in there, and maybe what else we put in there?
You could probably put onions in. I mean,
Yeah,
you can look
onions.
up online too and see what companion plants are good with it.
But would the companion plant help keep the pesticides or keep the pests out?
Some, yes.
Oh, okay.
Some is
yes.
just no deterrent them, but
Yeah.
You know about these bugs. So if
Right.
I go,
Renee doesn't like
Right.
bugs.
so if I visit the garden,
they're not
So
going to
is
bother
it-
you.
Please do.
so is there a fee? Is free? You just how do you?
No, the whole purpose of
free.
this garden
Okay.
was for the community that lives there. It's for the residents. My hope was that once the garden was established, and I got help from a lot of different, mostly, well, my husband and I, and my daughter and my son-in-law, and some other folks that we know, and some different churches. Pitched in. I have another master gardener friend who made all the beds. There are now 14 beds in there. Each are 12 foot long by 48 inches, so they're large beds. So we had a lot of help getting the garden started.
Yes.
But my hope for the garden now is that I can get enough residents interested in the garden that they will start taking over, and I can kind of take a little step back.
Yes.
And then as a master gardener, I'm supposed to be teaching them. So I would like more people to come in the garden
Yes.
when I'm there so that I can teach them how to
Absolutely.
take care of it so they can do it on their own.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, do they have a program where it's mandatory for any of the residents to take a certain amount of hours so that they can go? You
No,
know what I
it's-
mean?
it's all
Because that would kind of
volunteer.
encourage them to learn about gardening.
It's all volunteer. The kids are more interested than most.
Yeah, the kids are. The kids are. And I think, too, it's one of those things where, like me, for example, here I am out at the property every day, but it took me a while to even say, what is this? So I think, too, getting the word out is important, but also I believe that once a person walks in and truly sees that it's going to be something they're going to want to be involved in. It's just getting
Right.
to, I have zero interest in gardening. I'm not going to lie. My mom and dad actually retired in the last 2 years. We've never had a garden growing up. My dad is a fisherman, and all of a sudden he was bored with his time, and he wanted to be as self-sufficient as possible. So when I tell you, last year they kind of were just starting out, weren't real sure what they're doing. This year, he has garlic, he has potatoes, he reads books, he does research. This man went from not even liking to mow the lawn, liking to mow, to now every time I go there, he's out of the garden. So I think and it's also beautiful for him because it's a mental thing.
I was gonna
It's
say, I believe it's
relaxing.
therapeutic.
It's therapeutic.
Yes,
Okay.
Believe me.
yes, they do it together. I mean, I just love watching what it does to them as people. It is a beautiful garden, and they're wonderful people anyway. But to see how they have taken up this, what they called as a hobby, after they retired, and just seeing what it has done to them as people, to me is quite amazing.
Right.
It's an amazing thing.
Yeah,
Plus, I like
that's
to eat
good.
out of it.
That's
So.
good. So I have a question. I don't want to stick to collards, but I just want to get to no. So this is honestly, I'm leaving the collards. But so if I have the collards growing and I need to use pesticides, because I'm just saying, if I decide I want to use that, and I'm saying that because there's people that may be watching and listening that are using pesticides. You get the collards or whatever it is in the house. What is the best way to clean your vegetables if you're using pesticides?
Me, I just use water, baking soda, and vinegar.
See, these are master
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the
Put it
master
in
gardener.
Fill the sink
but-
up, sprinkle my baking soda, put some vinegar in there, smush it down a few times.
and it's gonna remove
Yep.
the pesticides.
Yeah, it's most of that combination. If you ever put vinegar and baking soda in a cup together, it does a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
That reaction, most folks don't like that. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should always wash any of your produce before you eat it.
yes,
Yes. that's
And you
what I'll
should
make
wash
sure.
it right before you use it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because some people just pick it up and they just eat it. They in the car and they just
you can come
they
in and
just
eat
do
our
it.
tomatoes like that. I introduced this little lemon drop tomato the first year,
Yes.
and
I call them
everybody
pears.
was like, "What is that? I'm not going to eat it." So I'd go right over and I said, "Wait a minute, you're not leaving a garden until you eat it." I'd pick some off, I'd pop it in my mouth, and I'd put one in their mouth, and I said, "Now eat it. Isn't that a good tomato?" So introducing new things.
Yes, that's huge.
It
Yes.
takes some time because if they're not used to it when they were growing up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they look at it like the other day. You said that's a yellow tomato instead of a red tomato or a green tomato. They weren't used to seeing the yellow. Tomatoes come in all different colors now, all different colors. So you just have to try them.
Okay. Well, would you say that there is a particular vegetable that cannot grow in our climate in like Fort Wayne?
Oh, I think we're having trouble with carrots.
carrots, and we tried watermelons one year, and they just little dinky things.
We had trouble
Really?
with, yes, I asked someone about it, and the type that I bought, the variety that I bought, apparently takes a lot more pollinators than what we had.
And that was one of the questions. How can we make our soil richer or, so that it's better to produce
I add
good vegetables?
compost.
Say that one more time.
I add compost to the soil every year.
Okay.
I bring in bags of compost. You can also put leaf mold in every year. That's, if you have a pile of leaves, let it sit there until it starts disintegrating, and then add it to your garden.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had
Recycle everything.
you bring up the children. So 2 months ago, there were a couple of young gentlemen at the property, and I could tell that they were probably used to being, defiant and not real pleasant, if I'm being honest. And of course, those are the children or adults that I cling to the most. So I kind of made it my mission to speak with them every day, per se, to talk about different things that maybe they weren't used to talking about. So long story short, they now, I believe they are siblings, they come up and say, "Miss Jill, is there anything here from the garden?" So the other day there were some peppers, and they were hot. So they said,
jalapenos?
"That's all that was left." And I said, "Oh, I'm not sure. Have you ever eaten those?" They said, "No, but we're fine," trying to show off. I said,
Did they look
I
like
don't.
wrinkled up raisins?
Yep. I said, "I don't think you want to eat those." So they took them. I said, "Okay." Within about 3 minutes, they are running through the office front door at the drinking fountain. They had sweat running down their faces.
hope it
So
wasn't
after they ate it, they wanted to talk
was
about
gonna say.
what it was. So now every day they come up and ask, "Is there anything new from the garden?" But not those things.
Did they look
So-
wrinkled like raisins?
Yes.
Yes.
They were. That's exactly
Oh,
what they
they're
were.
habaneros.
They were habaneros. And I told them because I did know that. So after the fact, we talked about what they were. So now when he sees me, we don't talk about things that are negative. We don't talk about, them. It's a completely different
Conversation.
change in conversation because now every day, "Miss Jill, do you have anything new from the garden?" But not those little things. So, I think it's very important to really understand how big and huge it is to have the children involved. Like you said, tasting new things, but just learning and just getting their mind off of.
Last year, didn't we used to do a thing where we would get some things from the garden and you would cook them?
Yeah, I try to a children's class.
Yeah, that's cool.
for the kids.
That's cool.
Oh, that's
Yes.
awesome.
So yeah, I love it. I love what you're doing and what you continue to do for just a variety of reasons. I love it.
If a child comes in by themselves, like one little guy came in one day
he's
and he
really-
was
he's
very
little.
quiet, cute little guy, and he was looking around, and I said, I'm about ready to put in some beans. Would you like to plant? And so he came over and planted a whole bed of beans with me. And when he came, and I said, now make sure that you come back so that you can get some and
Yes.
take them home so you can cook them. He's been in a couple of times
Yes.
and has gotten some produce,
Yes.
so it's been nice. Now, if some of the children come in and they're doing nothing but fighting, I send them home.
Yep.
Because there's no fighting
Right,
in the
that's
garden.
not what it's for.
There's no
Yep.
trash. There's no fighting. There's no bad talk. It's
Yes.
a quiet garden.
Yes.
Well, me, I tend to try to make the children come in with their parents because I
Yes.
just love to
I
see
was-
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just
I didn't
love,
want to ask that question, but I was wondering in my mind, like, where are the parents?
Yeah.
I love
for
for the
these little
parents to
kids to
come
be
We would
alone.
prefer for the parents to come with them.
Parents.
For one thing, we want the parents to be involved.
Yes.
Parents.
100%.
Family thing.
100%.
Can we get the parents to be with the kids when they go to the garden, please?
Yes. Miss Renee.
I do want to
Oh,
say
yeah,
one
go ahead.
thing to give a shout out
Yeah.
to a young man there. Besides Renee,
Yes.
my backup person is
The muscle
Charles.
man.
Okay, Charles.
He's my muscle. No matter when I'm there, he gets a hug,
And we
I
also
get a
have
hug
another
back.
lady, Sierra. She's
Sierra
a good
Jones.
help.
Yes.
Well, hopefully next time we talk
awesome.
about this, you'll have a lot more people
I hope
to
so.
mention. Renee and Denise, I want to thank you for being here with us and for planting seeds literally in our community. It doesn't go without notice or recognition. It's a beautiful thing. So we do want to thank you, all of us, and the community thanks you. Again, to plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow, and that's what it's about. So I want to thank you for being with us, and we want to remind you to always protect your mind. Good night.